Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the first Evergreen provider meeting, weekly provider meeting. Thank you very much for joining us at 8 a.m. on a Friday and for being patient while we got started a little bit late. This is our first meeting, so we were trying to do a little coordination there ahead of time. I want to first acknowledge the challenges and the frustration that you've all been experiencing since the rollout. And I want to thank you for your patience and continued patience as we here at ODES and on my team and at the vendor office work as fast as we can to triage the questions and issues and respond to those and resolve the issues that have been reported so far. And we appreciate your continued use of the post-deploy support plan. I know that's been a little bit challenging as well, but we appreciate you first trying to leverage the self-help tools, which include those recorded trainings and webinars that are out on our Evergreen project website, as well as utilizing the help center inside of Evergreen, which has your technical guide and some additional quick tips that we've been creating recently that were attached to the emailed communication that went out earlier this week. And we'll continue to upload additional quick tip sheets and instructions and user guides and things that will be helpful to you in that Evergreen Help Center. So definitely check back there often. We will also notify you via our weekly emailed communications when we add things to that help center. But we again appreciate you, leveraging those self-help tools first and then escalating any questions or issues that you were unable to answer on your own through your agency support person. We do understand the challenges that the agency support people have been having with the Microsoft Teams channels as well, though, which is why we did add the 2 recurring weekly meetings. We have the Monday meeting, which is for the agency support people, and then this Friday meeting now for all of you that are providers. And that is it. Again, the intent of that is to have an additional layer of information sharing. And we are also committed to sending a weekly informational communication as well now so that we can be disseminating information related to common questions and issues that are coming up through the agency support people so that everybody's getting that information. And I'd like to apologize for the delay in starting that process. It was a little bit of a fire hose initially, and so we're finally starting to be able to get our head a little bit above water so that we can hold these weekly meetings and produce that weekly informational email communication. I would also encourage all of you, if you aren't already, I'm sure many of you are, but if you aren't already, I would also encourage you to reach out to your colleagues. They may have figured out something that you are struggling with and can help you as well. I know that's on the at the Office of Aging and Disability Services. That's what we're doing. We're leaning on each other, asking each other for help as we learn the system just alongside with you. And I would also just make a request that you please be kind to your resource coordinators, your community case managers that you're working with, and your BI care coordinators. Those teams are really bearing the brunt of the transition, and they are also all learning the system alongside you. So, and trying to work around some known issues and then some unexpected challenges with some of the migrated data. So it has been pretty challenging for them and it's quite overwhelming. As reportable event providers or provider authorization providers or PCP data entry SIP providers, please try to be patient with them as well and try to, understand that they're doing the best that they can and working as fast as they can to try to resolve your issues and definitely want to help out in any way that we can. The goal of this weekly meeting is for us here on the Ode side to be able to share with you some of the answers to some of the common questions and some updates on some of the higher priority issues. But it's also an opportunity to collect new questions and issues from you. We still want you to leverage your agency support people and send those questions and issues up as they arise. But if there are new questions or issues that haven't made it through the Microsoft Teams channel, they can certainly be posed in the Q&A here on this call, and we will try to answer as many as we can during the meeting. And then those that we are unable to get to during the meeting, we will certainly collect and attempt to respond to between the meetings or bring back an answer to the following weekly meeting. We are recording all of these weekly meetings, so if you're unable to attend them, it's a bad time for you, or one week you can't make it for some reason, we will provide links to the recordings. I will likely include those in our emailed weekly communications so that you can have access to the link quickly, so that you don't have to wait for those to be posted to our website. But more to come on that, but we will try to get those turned around as quickly as we can. I know if anybody on this call was part of the Monday agency support person call, I still have not sent out the recording for that meeting yet. I hope to do that today. So I appreciate your patience. We're trying to get into a groove with the new schedule and getting those things out quickly. Hopefully, many of you that are here today were able to participate in yesterday's informational call and hear the updates from the Office of Aging and Disability Services Chief Operating Officer, Mark Ludy. I understand that there were a lot of questions on that call and that he was unable to get to bulk of them, and that he directed a lot of the participants in that meeting to join this meeting and ask some of those relevant questions here. So please, again, feel free to add those to the Q&A. And Emily Kalifarsky, Alexi Greenleaf are here to support me, and we'll do our best to try to answer some of those at the end of today's call if we have some time for some of those. And again, obviously, collect the ones that we aren't able to get to and try to get you answers to those questions. I would like to clarify one of the responses that Mark gave on yesterday's call just quickly. There was a question or a comment about not receiving an invitation to the provider channel, the Microsoft Teams provider channel. And I just want to clarify that that channel was set up for individuals who volunteered to be agency support people, or previously referred to as change champions. So invitations were sent individually to that group. If your agency does not already have an agency support person and you would like to volunteer to be an agency support person, you certainly can do that. And you can send that request to our evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov email address, and we will get you added as an agency support person if your agency doesn't already have a support person. If your agency already does have a support person, please note that we are limiting the number of volunteers per agency based on agency size. Some of the larger agencies obviously are going to need more than one support person, but some of the smaller agencies should be able to get by with one or two agency support people. And our reason for limiting the number of volunteers to that group by agency is just, again, the goal of that group is to kind of act as a gatekeeper or a funnel for the questions and issues that are coming in from end users within their organization. And the reason, again, for this is to help us to avoid receiving duplicate reports of the same question or issue, so that it's faster, more efficient for us on the ODE side to be able to triage the questions and the issues and being able to get to a solution on those for you. So we really are trying to retain the integrity of that group and not just add everybody to it. And along those lines, I know that Mark also shared the link for that Monday meeting in the chat at yesterday's meeting. I know he did request that only agency support people log into that call, but I'm going to make that request again to please not attend that meeting unless you are already an approved agency support person. We really need to keep that group smaller so that I can have a little bit different interaction with that group and be able to um, provide them with the information that they need to be able to support you in the best way that they can. And then just as a reminder, this meeting is open to everyone. So there may be a mix of individuals on this call. There may be some state staff, there may be some community case managers or BI care coordinators, but this meeting is focused for providers that are not community case managers or care coordinators. So the content will be around reportable event providers, provider authorization providers, and PCP data entry role SIP providers. So anyone is welcome to join and listen in. But again, we're going to focus the information that we're sharing on those three roles, and we're going to try to keep the questions that we take in the Q&A limited to those roles so that we can provide the layer of support that those roles need that they aren't getting through other avenues. So community case managers, BI care coordinators, you should continue to escalate your questions through your agency support person and work with your community case management liaison to schedule your support meeting if you haven't already had that or need that. And state staff should continue to escalate questions to their supervisors, which are serving as the agency support person for the state. Hopefully you all saw the first emailed communication that went out post-deploy that went out on Tuesday morning. If for some reason you didn't, it may have gone to like your junk folder or your spam folder. If you're actively using Evergreen, you should have received it because we did pull the list from Evergreen. So hopefully you saw that, were able to read that. There were some answers to some of the common questions that are relevant to this group in that first emailed communication. So I do want to quickly cover those items and then dive in and cover a couple of other items that I am aware of that have come up since that emailed communication went out. And then we'll open it up for any questions and questions that we can get to in the Q&A. So one of the first items that was in the March 19th emailed communication that I wanted to cover was a question about how do I submit a reportable event with a category of dangerous situation, which has a subtype of something other than the three options that were listed. And I know Mark also mentioned this during his meeting yesterday, but we are aware that the subtype for the category of dangerous situation is limited to three specific options, and there are other types of dangerous situations that need to be reported through the reportable event form. We have a high priority issue in with our vendor to get an additional value added to that list, and the value will be other until we are able to get that in there, which we hope to get in there soon. We have asked people to use the temporary workaround, and that is to select the type of hostage taking, because this is our most rarely used type of dangerous situation. And so we want you to select that type and then clearly indicate in the describe incident details text field that you've selected that because the other option is not available yet. And please describe what type of dangerous situation you are reporting in that text field. And then once we are able to get the additional value in there for other, we will go back and do a data fix for those that were reported with the hostage taking type, and we'll appropriately update those to a value of other. I did hear on Monday's call from at least one provider that they had been using a different method to track these because they weren't aware of this workaround of selecting hostage taking. That's okay. If that did happen, please feel free to send a list of the reportable event form IDs. We'll need to know what the Evergreen person ID was and the reportable event form ID was for those that you might not have selected hostage taking for, that you might have selected a different category for and used a different method for indicating the other type of dangerous situation. So if you're in that situation and you weren't aware of this workaround and you've already submitted some reportable events a different way, but they truly should have that other value affixed to them, please feel free to send us an email with those details. Again, we're going to need the person ID and the reportable event form ID. And, just in the body of the email, if you can just say, I'm sending this list of dangerous situation reportable events that need to be data fixed to other. And you can send those to the evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov email address. One of the other questions that was included in the emailed communication related to reportable events was regarding the provider follow-ups. So as everybody is aware, the reportable events did migrate to Evergreen in a completed state. So if you had an in-progress reportable event, it migrated over as completed and it's no longer editable. If you had a provider follow-up that was in progress, that also migrated as completed. So you cannot edit that anymore. Or if you had not started your provider follow-up, but you still need to attach a provider follow-up, we can get those added for you. You as reportable event for providers are not seeing the migrated reportable events. That is due to the way that we had to migrate the reportable event data. It was migrated without the organization or location details from the workflow status. So like in EIS, we didn't have the details needed to be able to indicate which organization the reporter was from. So the reportable events migrated with all of the appropriate reportable event data, but we weren't able to determine which organization should have access to view those. So the access control is not displaying the migrated reportable events to reportable event providers. ODE staff can see them, community case managers can see them, the crisis team can see them, but you as reportable event providers can't see those migrated ones. So if you need to still complete a provider follow-up for one of those reportable events, you will need to submit that through a paper form. We are just finalizing a paper version of the Evergreen provider follow-up form. I will be sending that out with next week's communication, and we'll also upload that form into the Evergreen Help Center for you. And you'll have to fill out that form. It will ask you what the EIS reportable event ID was. So you still have access to EIS in your read-only state. So you'll want to put that EIS report ID and then the Evergreen person ID on that form and fill that out and submit that to us at the evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov email address. And then we will find some resources here stateside at ODES to data enter those onto the reportable events. all of the new reportable events that are getting entered into Evergreen, you are able to see those. If they were entered by someone within your organization, you'll be able to see those. You should see your own. You should be able to edit the reportable events up to 24 hours. I think there may have been a challenge with that initially. I'm not sure if that's been resolved yet, but um, if it hasn't been, we will get that resolved, and you should be able to edit those up to 24 hours, and then they will lock down. But provider follow-ups can be added at any time, either with submission of the reportable event or after completion of the reportable event. And they can be added forever. So even if you, for some reason, miss the 30-day provider follow-up due date, you can still enter provider follow-ups after the fact. You can, however, only enter one provider follow-up. I know there has been a question about how do we do additional provider follow-ups. So if you need to do more than one provider follow-up, that would need to be filled out. That second or third follow-up would need to be filled out in this paper form that we're creating, and then that could be attached to the reportable event. So the reportable event does have the ability to add attachments, and that ability to add attachments does remain editable always after the 24-hour lock period. So you should be able to still upload any additional provider follow-ups that you might need to do as well that way. There was also a question about reportable events notifications. So reportable event providers will not receive notifications about reportable events. You're entering them yourself, so you won't be notified on those. However, the assigned community case manager, the crisis team, and the quality assurance team at ODES, they all do receive notifications when reportable events get submitted. So, and depending on some of the answers to some of the questions about suspected abuse, neglect, and exploitation, will also notify our adult protective services staff as well. So, and the disability rights main is being notified when rights violations are entered. So the notifications are triggering, but they will not go to reportable event provider role. There's no notification that you'll receive from the system. So I believe those are the reportable event issues that I'm aware of. Hopefully that answers some questions for any of you that are on the call that are reportable event providers. If there are any other questions that you have, please add those to the Q&A, and we'll try to get to those at the end of the call. As a PCP data entry role provider, there were a couple of questions and answers in the email communication that went out on Tuesday specific to you. One of them was, why am I receiving notifications to submit service implementation plans for individuals that my agency does not serve? I know Mark covered this as well yesterday in his informational webinar. But first off, we just want to apologize for the confusion and the inconvenience that was caused by those erroneous notifications. Unfortunately, what was happening is anytime a service implementation plan was, anytime a provider was invited to submit a service implementation plan, it was triggering a notification to all users that have that role, rather than just users that have that role that work under the organization or the location that needed to fill out the service implementation plan. We did, as Mark mentioned, and as was indicated in the email, we did turn those notifications off until we're able to fix them so that they only trigger the notification to the appropriate location, the PCP data entry role staff at the appropriate location. So there is, and also in those first few weeks, you weren't able to archive those notifications that you were receiving. So we have resolved the permission issue. There was a permission issue that was preventing you from being able to mark your notifications as read or unread, and also preventing you from archiving those. You now have the ability to do that. And actually, I might try to screen share really quickly and show you guys around. Just a minute here. Zoom makes me do the second share. Oh, of course, I don't have any notifications. Um, hmm. Maybe I'm not going to be able to show you this. I'm sorry. I don't receive notifications based on my role. But in here, you would have your notifications, and then up at the top left, you would have the buttons. Once you select a row, up at the top left, you'll have the buttons for marking as read or unread, and for archiving. So you can select message notifications one at a time by clicking on them, or clicking the box to the left of the notification and archiving them one at a time. Or you can select the box at the very top above the table, above the rows of notifications, and that will select all of them, and you can archive all of them off at the same time. Or you can, again, do kind of one or two at a time. We did discuss the possibility of having the vendor archive some of those, but they would have to archive all of them. It was either an all or nothing kind of situation, and there were some relevant notifications for people, and we didn't want your relevant notifications to get archived off if you didn't want them to. So we have left that for you to archive yourself. But again, you can do them one at a time, or you can archive all of them if you prefer to archive all of them by selecting that box at the top. And then we'll try to provide some additional step-by-step instructions for that as well. In addition to the erroneous notifications going out and creating some confusion, and turning those off, there is a way for you to still find your list of service implementation plans invitations. So there is a report that is available to you. Actually, maybe I should have just left my screen up. I think I can show you the report at a minimum. Let me try that. So over here under reports, there's a report that should be available to PCP data entry providers. It is called the SIP Provider Invitations Report. And you can see based on status, you can see one or all. It's going to default to in progress, which in progress is what the status will be when you're invited to submit a service implementation plan and while you're working on a service implementation plan. So you can do a preview here and preview the report, and it will provide you some results. I'm not going to run it just because I'm a super user, so it will give me access to everything. And this is a a broad group here, but you can click this preview. It will then hide these parameters and provide you a table of results, and you can navigate from that table to, sorry, the links in that report are currently broken. There's a link to the person record and there's a link to the service implementation plan form itself. Those links are currently broken. They're giving a 505 error. We are working to resolve that. We should have that resolved soon. But if you are an existing provider and you are already assigned to the person, ultimately the link to the person record in the form will work for you. And if you're not currently assigned to the person because you're a new provider that they're considering, and you've been invited to submit the service implementation plan, if you click those links, once we get them resolved, they'll give you an access denied error because you are not actively assigned to the person until you've been selected as a provider. So the way that new providers will need to fill out service implementation plans is by paper. So that is a workaround right now. That is a known issue that we went live with. We apologize for the the workaround for that. We are actively working to get that resolved as a high priority as well. But if you are not actively assigned to the person, not actively serving the person, you will need to work with the community case manager or the BI care coordinator to get a copy of the PCP and to fill out the paper version of the service implementation plan until you're selected as a provider, and then you'll gain access to the person record, and then you'll be able to fill out the service implementation plan within the person record under the person-centered plan form itself. Now, as a provider, you do not have access to the full person-centered plan. That was a change to the role-based access when we moved to Evergreen. That was a conscious decision. And the reason for that change, it's not a confidentiality concern. It's more of a process change, a person-centered plan process change. And the reason behind it was to ensure that the person themselves is being able to direct their own plan and that they have freedom of choice that's free from conflict. So the community case manager is the role, or BI care coordinator is the role that will develop the PCP with the person in Evergreen. And providers are prohibited from data entering and even viewing the full plan while it's in progress. We will ultimately give you, as PCP data entry providers, we will ultimately give you access to the completed signed plan. But I wasn't aware that that was needed until like during training right before we went live. So we are actively working to get you the access to be able to view the signed, completed, the completed signed plan yourself. But in the meantime, if you need that for your records, you will need to obtain that from the community case manager or the BI care coordinator. They can use the PCP person print, and they can print a hard copy or PDF that document and send it to you until we're able to get you the ability to run that, print that yourself. So once you are an assigned provider, PCP data entry provider, you then have the ability to navigate to the person record. You can navigate to the custom person-centered plan forms list page. We are also actively working to create a guide for this, a guide that shows you how to find your SIP provider invitation report, as well as how to navigate to the person record and get to the service implementation plan under the person record. So if you're actively assigned, you can do this now. You can navigate to the person record. You can go to the forms and plans icon. You can go to the PCP custom list page using the filter icon, which is the upside down pyramid in the upper right hand corner. And then you can navigate into the PCP. When you navigate in, the system is bringing you to the PCP tab of the PCP, and it's going to give you an access denied message because you are not you do not have access to the PCP. However, you should see the SIP tab to the right of the PCP tab, and you can click on that, and that will give you access to the SIPs. So you'll see a list of SIPs there. You should only have access to your own organization's SIPs. I did find an error where it looks like it's giving you access to all of the SIPs right now. So we do have another issue track to remediate that as well, and only give you access to your own organization service implementation plans. But you can then navigate into your service implementation plan and populate that or revise that if that needs to be revised. As a provider, if you need to revise your service implementation plan, you do need to reach out to the community case manager or the BI care coordinator, and they will need to revise the PCP as a change type, and they will need to select the option of change in SIP, change in service implementation plan. That's the only way that the community case manager will then be able to open up your service implementation plan for edits. Again, this is a change in the process. In EIS, you were able to just go in and edit your service implementation plans without having to have the community case manager or the BI care coordinator open that up for you. This was another intentional change in the process. And the reason for that is that if a service implementation plan is being edited, then that the person needs to be aware of the revisions to that plan, and they need to approve the revisions to that plan. And the way that that gets the completed, the process for completing that is that the community case manager needs to review that service implementation plan with the person, and then the person needs to indicate their approval and re-sign their person-centered plan, indicating that they agreed to the changes in their SIP. So that is why you need to do that. But if you need to revise a completed SIP, then you do need to reach out to your community case manager or your BI care coordinator and request them to open that up for you. I think that's all I needed to share around service implementation plans at this time. Again, apologies for the challenges with gaining access to that form. We are working to make that much smoother, easier process. Ultimately, your notifications will get turned back on. You'll be able to navigate to that form through your notification at some point. I also am aware that the SIP provider invitation report is giving you service implementation plans that are attached to completed PCPs. So like some of the migrated data that came over from EIS, if there was a SIP attached to a PCP and the SIP didn't have the lock flag on it, that SIP migrated over as in progress, but the PCP itself migrated as completed. And when you run that SIP provider invitation report right now, it's still showing that migrated SIP that truly should have had the lock icon on it in EIS. It was completed in EIS, but it just was lacking that lock icon, that lock checkbox. So those are showing up on your report. We are on the ODE side going to try to work to clean that up because you as providers don't have the ability to set that to complete, and your CCM does not, or BI care coordinator does not have the ability to set that to complete. So we are going to work to try to clean that up for you. So be aware if there are any community case managers or BI care coordinators on the call. Some ODE staff, likely myself or one of my team members, is going to be going in and reopening some of those migrated PCPs so that we can close those SIPs out, and then we'll close that PCP out again. We'll also be communicating this to all the community case managers and BI care coordinators before we start that work. But for the SIP PCP data entry providers, just know that we are aware that some of those older SIPs migrated in an in-progress state. They technically should have been in a completed state. They shouldn't be showing up on your report anymore, but we're going to work to get that cleaned up for you just as quickly as we can. So we'll also include some instructions for filtering down. You can run that report that I described, and you can filter it down to just the 2024, February 2024 ones and forward, and then that will be like actual relevant ones for you. As PCP data entry providers, I know there was also some initial questions around behavior management plans and safety device packets. There were answers to those questions as well in the emailed communication. All BMPs that are needed for the April 1st committee reviews do need to be submitted through the odes.crisis@maine.gov email address, which is the old process. I'm really sorry that we have to have you submitting through that old process right now. We do want you to be able to ultimately submit through Evergreen, but unfortunately our crisis staff is unable to get to those BMPs in the system right now, so they do need you to submit those through that odes.crisis@maine.gov email address. But you will be able to submit those through the system soon, and we will notify you when that form becomes available for you to submit through Evergreen as well. I also am aware that some of the migrated BMPs from EIS migrated and are showing up in the person-centered plans as active, and they're not supposed to be active anymore. So I am aware of that issue that's been tracked, and also working to resolve to get that resolved. But essentially the only behavior management plans that should display in the person-centered plan are BMPs that are in that are completed and they have an approval end date in the future, and the decision on that BMP was either approved or conditionally approved. Those are the only ones that should be showing up in the PCP, but I am aware that some of the migrated ones from EIS that are not in that status are showing up. Also, safety device packets. Providers do not have the ability to submit safety device packets either in Evergreen. Again, a intentional process change. So the need for a safety device should be documented in the person-centered plan through the person-centered planning process. And since the person-centered plan is authored by the community case manager or the BI care coordinator, the request for a safety device does need to go to the community case manager or the BI care coordinator. You as the provider can still collect all of the forms and signatures and everything that you need to do for the safety device, but you need to provide that to the community case manager or the BI care coordinator, and they will enter that or upload those attachments to the safety device packet and submit the safety device packet for review and approval. You did not have access to view the safety device packets until this morning. So we have turned that access on for you as providers. You should be able to see the safety device packets now. Apologies that you did not have access to that initially. You may still not be able to see the attachments on that packet. I think I need to work with the vendor to get that resolved. So if you find that you're not seeing the attachments, please know that we will get that opened up to you soon. But ultimately, you will be able to see the safety device packets after they've been submitted, entered by the community case managers, BI care coordinators. I think that was it around behavior management plan and safety device. I know we only have about 10 minutes left, so I do want to get to the provider authorization users. There were a couple of items in the email around provider authorizations as well. I know Mark covered some of this yesterday as well. So as a provider authorization provider, your access to view provider authorizations is different in Evergreen than it used to be in EIS. In Evergreen, provider authorizations are considered a form. They don't have their own distinct type. So they live under the forms and plans area of the person-centered plan. And in order to control access so that organizations only see their own forms, that means that you can't see the provider authorizations. And that's because those are created by somebody at ODES, not somebody within your organization. So you can't view them under the person record, under the forms and plans area where our resource coordinator team sees them or the community case manager sees them. You have to navigate to the reports area that I showed a little bit earlier on this call, and you need to go to the PA utilization report. This report should be working for you right now. There was a quick tip that was created on how to navigate there. It was attached to the Tuesday email. It's also uploaded into the Evergreen Help Center, so you can get it in the Help Center in Evergreen. I am aware that there was a request to add one more field of information to that PA utilization report, but it should have all the data that you need. But there was a request to add the hours per week that are entered in the person-centered plan side of the system. So right now, what you're seeing on there is the units, policy related units. So if it's a quarter hour service, you're seeing the quarter hour units, but there was a request to see it also as the hours per week, the way that it would have been requested through the PCP. So we are working to get that added to that report and hope to have that out there as well in the very nearish future. And I also am aware of and I know Mark covered this as well, the challenges with the 17-digit PA numbers. And I know Mark talked quite a bit about this, but there is we did we resolved that issue moving forward. So as of March 15th, the evening of March 15th, we rolled out a change in the Evergreen system so that now all new PAs that are being created in the system have a 15-digit number. But the PAs that were created during the migration and through March 15th, they still have the 17-digit number. And so I know the Office of Main Care Services had sent out a communication through their listserv. I think it's been a week or two ago now, outlining a workaround for those 17-digit for claiming with those 17-digit numbers through the portal. So the workaround is to leave the PA number off. So you use the service date and the service itself, and then the system will auto match and find your PA and not deny your claim. I also, though, am aware that some of you have software that you produce an exported PA file from, and you upload that through the portal, and you're still having challenges removing that PA number from your file that you upload. So right now, the only workaround to that is to manually enter them and leave that PA number off. But I do want to let you know that we are still working on additional fixes on the MIMS side to hopefully allow you to submit that 17-digit number. And I know that Main Care Services and our resource coordination team are working with you to try to, those of you that are still struggling with your claims. But more to come on that, but we are actively trying to resolve that, and all the new PAs only have the 15-digit number. So that should not be a persistent issue. We just have the issue of dealing with ones that migrated that way and were entered until the 15th. I am also aware of, actually, I'm going to pause here. Emily or Alexi, do you want to chime in and share any additional information about prior authorizations?
No, I think I'm furiously answering a lot of Q&A questions about it, but I'm sorry, Lizzie, because my mind was on the Q&A question I was on. I don't think there's any general information at this point that we would share.
Okay, thank you. No problem. So the one other item that I do want to acknowledge or let you know that I'm aware of is some reports about locations and uh, I don't, I want to use the right terminology, but I'll use access, not access in relation to your role and what you have access to perform for functions in the system, but access to the appropriate list of locations under your organization, or access to the people that you think you should have access to under that organization. So we've received several reports from different providers, like I'm seeing more locations than I think I should have access to, or I'm not seeing all the locations that I think I should have access to, or I'm seeing people that I don't think I should have access to, or vice versa. I have investigated several of those reports, and they are matching the access that was in EIS. So my belief is that there was some bad data in EIS, in the sense that, like, maybe an assignment to a location or a person was not terminated when it should have been. Maybe a notification never made it to my team to unassign a staff person from a location or an organization, or potentially a person directly, if it's a community case manager or BI care coordinator or something like that. So we believe that the access is matching what EIS was. That still doesn't mean that it was correct. So we definitely want to help you get those changes made, but it is a very manual effort for our team. So we are requesting, and I think Mark mentioned this yesterday, that if you feel that you are not seeing the right list of locations, or you're seeing too many locations or people within your organization, when you log in, please send us an email to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov. Indicate what organization you work for and what locations you are seeing that you think you should not be seeing, or what locations you're not seeing that you should be seeing. I hope I said both of those. And also if it's just you, or if it's multiple staff in your organization. I am also aware that, like, some organizations, like reportable event providers or provider authorization providers, you should be seeing all of the locations under your organization. If that's the case, you don't need to list every single one. You can just say, I should be seeing all of the locations under my organization, and I'm not. And also this person that works for my organization. Please provide to us your staff profile ID number, your username. So, like, when you log in, what is the username that you log in with? And same for any other people in your organization if they're also experiencing the same challenge. That's how we're going to be able to get that updated. And I would request that you be patient with us. It is a very manual effort. It's going to take us quite some time to get all of these edits made, but we are committed to getting those made for you. So if you have any questions about that, definitely email that to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we'll try to help you work through that. I know we're right at time here. We're at 9 o'clock. I also am aware that I did not get to any of the questions in the Q&A. I thank you, Emily, for responding to those that you could respond to while we were on the call. Hopefully people are seeing those responses to those questions. The ones that we did not get to, we will certainly collect again, as always. And we will try to provide answers to some of those in the weekly communication that will go out next week. That will likely go out on Tuesday morning or Wednesday at the latest, but hopefully on Tuesday morning. So we'll try to incorporate some responses into that. And then any that make sense for us to bring to next Friday's meeting, we will also bring to next Friday's meeting. And I will not recover this information in next Friday's meeting. So we should have lots more time next week to actually answer specific questions. So I apologize that I didn't get to opening up the Q&A today, but I really appreciate all of you joining me. I hope that you did find this helpful. And week over week, hopefully we can distill down to the new issues, and we'll be resolving some of these issues that we came into the system with and making things just a little bit easier for you each day and each week. But thank you again. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate you participating, and we appreciate your patience and partnership in trying to get Evergreen to the place where we wanted it to be and need it to be.